So, welcome, Hannah.
Thank you.
Um,
Thanks for having me.
that's all right, pleasure. So, invited you along, obviously, to have a little chat about your working with me and with Tilly,
Yeah,
and how you found going through a program with me. Thank
yeah,
you so much for doing it. I really do appreciate it.
that's okay.
So, the first one I wanted to ask was, if you can remember, because I know it was a little while ago, but can you remember like why you came to me? Like, how did you found me and thought, oh, I'll do that rather than this?
Yeah, so I went to a really great kind of like puppy class when she was really, really little, got lots of tips from there and then kind of implemented all of those. And we got to the point where we were on our long line and I just wasn't too sure how to get off the long line.
Get off it.
Tilly is classic working spaniel, very interested in all the movements and the sounds, and
Yeah.
actually sometimes what I thought were really high value treats and rewards weren't really grabbing her attention, and it felt like she would be quite happy to be on a very independent walk. Whereas I wanted to
Yes.
do a joint walk together. And it was actually my friend whose sister has a working, sorry if you can hear Ozzy in the background barking.
That's okay. You'll
Um,
probably hear mine at some point.
it was actually my friend's sister who has a working spaniel, and we tried scent work. When
Yeah,
people kept on saying like the working dog
yeah,
needs a job, so we
yeah,
tried scent work, and she was naturally really really good at it. And but it didn't really give her a spark. She was kind of like, well, there it is. And now
yeah,
what? Like, there it is.
yeah,
That's fine.
yeah.
Like, oh,
Done.
you're looking for it. Oh, it's right there. No, there was no kind of, she didn't really seem excited. It was kind of just plodding along.
Yeah,
And it was my friend's sister that said that her dog did Gundog. They don't live near me at all. So I started kind of like looking around for different places, stumbled across
yeah,
I think it was your website to begin with, and had a little look at very, very good reviews. And I think it was I think what I quite liked was I saw some other advertisements for Gundogs, and it was group classes, which is fine, but it was
yeah,
very working. It was very, we do this to then do this. Whereas I
yes,
think what I
yeah,
quite liked about kind of like when I saw your website was that it was, we do this for the working breeds, but actually this is going to help you on your Sunday morning walks, or it can help you build that relationship. It can help
yeah,
you like in so many other ways rather than, I don't want to say just, but like the gun
yeah,
dog kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
work.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
gun dog work, but how it can make her happier because it's meeting all of her breed needs, and
yeah,
it can strengthen our relationship. We can actually use it in our daily walks in the park. Whereas I knew I wasn't going to work her, and I
yeah,
knew I wasn't going to do kind of any competitions or anything. I just
yeah,
wanted that kind of,
bond.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So I think that's what
yeah,
I particularly liked as well. It's kind of the holistic approach,
yeah,
and specifically, actually, she's a working dog, but she is also a pet, and it's
yeah,
it's that kind of yeah. That's definitely what got
yeah.
us got us having a little
That's
look.
actually really nice to know, because I get like a lot of people will contact me and they'll say like, oh, I've got, I don't know, Fox Red Lag, Cocker Spaniel, whatever. But then they'll always sort of say, oh, but I don't want to work them. Or sometimes people will always feel they have to say like, I might want to work them later as like a reason for me to accept to train with them. And it's like, it isn't like I will help people who want to work and have an issue with like, I don't know, maybe their dog's not confident, or choose the retriever or whatever. But actually I am more centered towards helping people with working breeds get like the walks and the life that they want. So it's
Yeah.
nice to know that hit the
Yes.
mark.
Yes, definitely ticked all the boxes.
Excellent, I love that. And then obviously we had a chat, because I know we always do. I always have that chat and find out a little bit more about who I'm speaking to and exactly what they want.
Yeah.
And then further to that, what made you decide to go for a program? Because I also obviously offer the pay as you go, come and do a bit whenever,
Yeah.
over that.
Yes. Yeah. No.
Can
Absolutely.
you?
So I think I remember having a conversation kind of between your programs and kind of which one. I think I always had program in my head because I think I kind of anticipated it being not a long journey, but a big learning
Yeah,
curve, I think is probably the best
yeah,
way of putting it. So I know I am a doer learner. So if I'm learning something new, I kind of, and then I have, as you know, lots of questions to
yeah.
make sure that
I
I'd
love
rather
that.
yeah, I'd rather like
Yeah,
problem solve in the moment, or
yeah,
like in the quite short term rather than Sorry.
Okay, honestly, anyone listening to this is going to be a dog owner, so that's what we have.
It's people coming back home. I'll move upstairs. It's we're I think 5 adults in the house at the moment, so it's
I love that. People coming back home, I'll run away.
it's any kind of movement and they get very excited. Um,
That's all right. You
what
can
was
get
I,
yourself
what was I saying?
sorted.
Yes. So so the programs. Yes. So I think I really wanted to opt in for the chunk of training because I knew that if it wasn't, it's not a one session. And we were talking like a dog being off the lead. I think it probably depends on like what people have gone for. But I think for me, I kind of knew it was going to be a big learning curve. And actually, I have no experience with Gundog at all. So I wanted the kind of input for the parks, see how that was going, and then problem solve. But also, actually, Gundog was brand new to me. So having a chance to kind of find out lots of things about it within a block of sessions. It was definitely what got me. Yeah,
no, I like that. Yeah, because I do remember Tilly was a hedge fan, wasn't she? When we started out, a fan of hedges.
Fan of hedges, a fan of, loved a hedge. I mean, she still does, but we can do it so that she can enjoy it and I can enjoy it. Whereas before, she had a great time. She's always had a great time on a walk. This is what I've always said. She's always given it a 10 out of 10 review at the end of every walk. I would not always give it a 10 out of 10, especially at the beginning. And especially with hedges.
And I think grown massively.
Yes, yeah. And I think it's always interesting because everyone comes with their own different experiences. Like we've always had dogs, but Tilly's my first like full responsibility dog. We've had family dogs previously, and I think the expectations for owners to train their dogs has also changed as well. I mean, Aussie is 13, so 13 years ago there weren't any puppy classes. You might have got a trainer, but maybe if your dog was really aggressive or the kind of extremities, you weren't really training as much as you should have, really. And we're the first to say
it would be like group in a village hall, like where sort of people are probably volunteering to deliver the staff. And because I remember that way back with mine.
That's it. And I think then Ozzy, as you know, he injured himself a couple of years ago, and Mum takes him on most of his walks, but when I take him for a walk, I find it really stressful if a dog off the lead comes up to us. And I just thought when I got Tilly, I was like, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person, because if a dog's on a lead, they could be on a lead for so many different reasons. But I never really thought of injury as one until Ozzy hurt himself. So then I was like, I'm not going to be that owner, that lets their dog run up to every other dog. And her love of hedges, I was thinking, okay, you're in the hedge, but can you get through the other side? And then have I lost you then through the fields of Epping Forest? So I think it was definitely a love of hedges, a love of chase. Her prey drive was always a thing, and I haven't really experienced that before. And her speed, she is so quick.
I was going to say she's definitely hot, wasn't she? Yes, it'd be like, oh, spotted it, boom, and like just little rocket. And she reminds me of another dog I train with, because I know I've said it to you before, but that like queen of the nanosecond, it's like, it's been a second, bye, rather than having that focus, it was just like boom, boom, boom. Typical of her breed.
Absolutely. I always say she's either is like a 0 or 100, and people don't believe me when I say that of an evening hit 8 p.m. she's asleep on the sofa, absolutely snoring away, because they can't picture her ever doing anything other than running. But I say she gives it 100%, or she's asleep. There's no, you're not going to get a middle effort.
No, that is very true. Definitely 100%. And obviously we had a really nice end of session walk, your last session, which is what made me then think, well, actually, could we have a chat about this? For me, it was just lovely to see, because obviously because everybody obviously does their program different, as you know, but the fact that yours happened to be like the off-site one was really, really nice for me, because obviously I'd done one earlier and I'd seen you know, I think you were less stressed at that point than you were originally, but still, like, you know, there was the stress of like the hedges and stuff were still presenting themselves. And that last walk, just like, it was just so different. You were just so much more relaxed and you trusted her so much more. And therefore she responded more. And it was just really, really lovely. And I remember when we had a little chat at the end and we was recapping and sort of talking back to how she was and how far she'd come and stuff. And it was obviously lovely for me, but it was nice hearing you being happy about it. But since then, actually, you've even updated me even more, haven't you? Because I've got your little video of the moment where you were like, I never thought we'd get that.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us about that?
Yes, that auto sit, or the auto stop. Yes, I think definitely. I always thought that the training sessions in the kind of like where you are, the secure space, that was always amazing, and it's that transferring of skills. But actually, to see that all come together in a walk at the very end of the program, I think was like literally I just came back home just beaming. I was like, that's it, the start to finish transformation. I feel like sometimes I wish I filmed some of our very first walks, but actually I was too stressed to.
But actually, Gabs, I must get like footage of people, because people forget, like, and not even about their dog, because sometimes like you'll be really focused and you'll go like, oh yeah, I remember like how, I don't know, not for you because her recall wasn't bad, but some people will say like, oh, you know, I've forgotten that, you know, I'd recall them and they'd carry on just looking at the floor and not even look at me, let alone come back. But actually what a lot of people forget is how they were when they first came. And I get to see that. And that was one of the things where I said how much you've changed. But like, you never really kind of get to see that in the first place. So without a bit of footage, you can't look back and go, oh yeah, God, look, like, how nervous I was or whatever. But I know like you've changed heaps.
You remember that feeling. You might not see it, but you definitely remember that feeling when you used to take them on walks. But yes, no. So
do I know my moment of like, do I unclip?
Oh yes, do I risk it? Do I not? What do I do? But yeah, no. The work that kind of, I think that walk in the park, the last one with you, kind of gave that confidence of actually, it wasn't the couple of times we've happened so far, it wasn't a fluke, and it wasn't a pot of luck on that day. Actually, we're starting to see it all kind of come together. And yes, so since then we've been kind of doing all of the things that you said previously. And I think that the biggest change in my brain is that I think it took me a while to understand what working means. So like, she's a working breed, okay, but like, I think in my head on walks, I was like, I can't throw the dummy for her all the time. I can't send her on retrieves 24/7. I can't do this. I can't do that. Like, she's a working breed, yes, but I can't work her all day. Whereas actually,
and I actually remember you asking that.
Yeah,
I do remember now. I've forgotten, but I remember you saying like, but I can't do this for like will this change? Am I going to have to do this for like every walk for the rest of my life? Yeah,
that's it. And like constant retrieves, or constant like a hide and find the dummy, and constant kind of, I was thinking, I can't picture a walk
can't do this
every single day, kind of. And I think it took me a little while to understand what working means. It's not it's not that, it's that you have that, you're working her, but it's not like, it's having that connection with her, and you're playing games with her, it's still working her. Sending her to sniff for a treat that you threw in the long grass, that's working her. So I think my understanding of working completely changed as well. And I think that's helped, because then on walks I am working her, but not in the way that I originally thought working meant.
Not in an exhausting way.
And it's not constant, and I feel like I don't have to be on her as much as I anticipated when people said about your working breed dog. But yeah, so more recently we've been practicing lots of there seems to be birds everywhere at the moment, so that's been our kind of main tester. And we've been working the stop whistle, and I've changed up my rewards. I've a couple of times I put her into a sit whistle just in practice, and then the reward was, she loves a tennis ball. So I was kind of, it was just treats, and she's food motivated, but she can kind of take them or leave them when on a walk. So I started hiding the tennis ball, and that's been the game changer for us. And we had it I think it was last week or the week before. I held off a little bit, and I just thought, I'm just going to watch and wait now to see what she does. And she ran over towards 3 pigeons, kind of
Yeah.
gave me a little look as she turned around, and then turned and sat into a little stop without me whistling. So that
Yeah,
got a
that
very
was
big
awesome.
throw of the tennis ball.
That was so good to see, because obviously you sent me the video and I was looking at it and I saw obviously the sit at a distance. Now I think I can't remember. I think I didn't have my sound on, or I wasn't sure if I had it on because I didn't hear like the whistle, but of course there wasn't one. And I was like, oh, that was a good, a really good distance sit to whistle, thinking I've probably just not heard the whistle bit. And then when you panned in, and I was like, oh no, she sat herself to like a little covey of birds. So I was like, brilliant.
Yeah.
And that was just brilliant. I was so chuffed for you, because it shows that it does pay off, because I like that you then sent me that message saying, I remember you telling me about your girl, and when she sat herself to the hare that ran off in front of her, and thinking like you'd never get there, and realistically how short a time it's actually taken you, when you think it's not been long at all. So to get that on a
I
much
remember
version
so
round.
vividly you telling me that story, and I thought, wow, that's so amazing. Like that's the dog that you have, like when the owner is a trainer. Like that's amazing. You can tell like all of that knowledge and all gone in straight into the dog. That's amazing. We probably won't get there, but that's really nice. Like that sounds amazing. Yeah. And then like, when she did it, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I mean, I've known from I've known she's smart, but that was particularly, I was happy with that one. And actually more recently as well, we've been I remember saying to you, forests were always a tricky one for us as well.
I remember that.
And we have a lovely forest near us, and I've been putting her back on the long line but dropping the long line, and which is kind of, I think, more for me than for her.
I was going to say, for the confidence for you.
I think so, because I think I bought a bright orange long line, and it means that if she does, like, it's quite windy in parts, and if she kind of goes, and because she's chocolate brown, she blends in quite nicely. If she turns the corner and stops to sniff, I can see the end of the line, so I can see that she's stopped, so I can kind of, she's thankfully isn't going into that's it, and she's not, touch wood, kind of going into the ditches or the hedges or anything. We do have horses nearby as well, so that's another thing. She hasn't seen them very often, so I'm a bit nervous around those. But we had it, was it last weekend, and a squirrel, I mean, I don't know why it decided to do this, but kind of like just dropped out the tree and ran straight across the path right in front of her. And I practiced the stop whistle. I did have my foot on the long line as a backup, but I practiced the stop whistle, and she didn't kind of do her stop in the same way she does with the bird. She did like a few steps forward, but then she stopped. I was like, that's amazing. I'll definitely take that. Like that is how we started with the birds. So I know that almost like I now know the pattern of learning. I know that when she's first learning it, she might take a few little steps forward, but that's okay. It's better than chasing. And then over time and kind of seeing it. So it's nice to know that we've almost like conquered it with birds 95% of the time. Then we can start to bring it out to those animals that we don't necessarily see as much, but are still just as exciting for her. Squirrels, cats, and foxes and stuff.
That's really good that you mentioned that as well, because again, a lot of people will, like, I don't know, maybe come from recall foundation problems, something like that. And that very first session is very much like, so when will I get this recall? And looking for us almost to spend that time, saying Fido come and practicing dog coming into name. Whereas actually, as you know from your journey, that's like the last kind of bit. There's so much that it's all about your relationship and what's your dog doing and what you do with them. And all those small little bits add up. But like you said, once you've got an idea of how that works, you can then transfer it to other things and make it work for you in so many ways. But it's doing that journey of like all the little micro steps, isn't it? I was saying to somebody today about recalling their dog, and with her just saying accepting it being slightly further afield for now, but because it has come back, it's just not coming that last little bit. But once we've got that in place, then you can get fussy about the last little bit. So with her like stepping forward on a squirrel, well, once she's got that, well, then you can start to get fussy and go, okay, well, you move forward a little bit. You didn't sit straight away, kind of thing. And seeing it as a bit more of a journey than a Like,
That's it, like an overnight thing, like now she'll do it
yeah,
perfectly, whereas yesterday she didn't at all. Yeah. And I think
yeah,
once you've done that kind of journey once, and then you start to branch out to different things, you know what your dog will do at certain parts of that journey. So like,
yeah,
whereas the first time I might have got really hung up on the fact that she took a few steps forward. Whereas
yeah.
now I'm
You
like,
probably would have
oh,
sent me a
actually,
message.
I definitely would have sent you a video and a massive
You would
voice
have
note
done.
alongside it.
Yeah, yeah. Saying, I'm so sorry. It's like X amount of night, but this has just come into my head. Yeah, but I love all of that because that's why
Yeah.
you made the progress you made, because you
Yeah.
would have a problem or a question and then just go, right, boom, there it is. And I could go, no, a couple of steps is fine for now. Don't, when you go, oh, great, lovely, don't have to worry. And
Yeah.
whereas actually, if you're not on a program and you're doing pay as
That's
you
it.
go, then
Yeah.
you do stress about that till next time you turn up, which,
Yeah. Yeah.
even if
Yes.
it's a week,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a
And
week of
or forget to
thinking.
ask it completely.
Yes, yeah. I'm normally the
Yeah.
kind of person who does that, completely forgets. I'm like, I'll ask all
Yeah.
these questions when I see her, and I don't. Um, so yeah, the other thing I was going to say about the whole working thing as well. So again, those hedges were another big one to do with the working, weren't they? Because when you were thinking about what working was before and how we've actually been applying it to various bits with Tilly, the sending her in and calling her out and sending her in and rewarding her for just coming out and things like that, that's been a really good game changer for her hedges. And she's working because she's
Yeah.
going in there looking for things, but she knows that you're good with it and you're okay with it and you're part of it, rather than her just
Yeah.
going into a hedge and disappearing for like 15 minutes or whatever. It's like,
100%. Yeah, no,
yeah,
definitely.
no,
And I think
part
there's
of it.
definitely the changing point is absolutely is that it's being part of it. And it's I can then join in, but also almost like level it up. So she's gone into that
Yeah,
hedge, and that's great. I can almost like when she comes out, I can send you into that hedge. While you're in that next one, I can then set something up for almost like the third time I send you in for something that you'll then
yeah.
find the dummy or a ball or a treat, and I can set that up so actually I'm
She goes,
sending you
wow, how did
in,
she
but
know?
that's it. Like, oh my gosh, I've got a stick near her now. She knows where all the good stuff is. So it's
Yeah,
kind of like she's doing all the things that in her head she's like, I want to do this and I'm going to do it, but I'm just
yeah,
kind of joining in. But I can then level it up for her as well to build that bond and stay near
yeah.
me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And also, to be fair, like I remember when we spoke first of all as well about the length that she would go from you and how comfortable or uncomfortable you were with how far she goes. And again, that last walk, like she did some brilliant fast stuff, but responded every time. And that was something you'd have been super stressed about in the beginning, because you were like, no, I'd like her here.
I'd like her right by my feet.
Yes.
At
Where
one
I
at
can
one
see
point,
her.
I remember saying to you, thinking like, I feel like I'm there. We're not doing our walk together. Tilly was on
Yeah,
her walk. I was trying to join that walk or
yeah,
get her to join my walk, and she was very happy to kind of do her. And it was. I remember we took her to like a lovely forest in Ireland, so I knew like we weren't near any main roads, and that was kind of like our one of the first real tests of actually what does happen when she has that off lead freedom, and does
yeah.
she come back, and kind of like testing her out in that way and training her in that way. And I remember we were walking through a forest bit. I couldn't see her and I couldn't hear her. I stopped walking. Within 3 seconds, she popped her head out. And
Love
that's when I
that.
realized she can hear me, she can see me, she can smell
Yeah,
me, but I can't see her. So
yeah,
it made me feel better in some ways that she wasn't necessarily like running off. She was just
yeah,
running, doing her own thing. But then it always jumped back to that thing of I don't want to have my dog as that person that as the dog that runs up to other
yeah,
people. And if I can't see her, the further away she is, the less reliable all of her like all the cues are. So like the recall and the stop whistle. And I felt like the further away she was at that time,
yeah.
the percentage of it working at that moment would just reduce or just plummet. And I
Yeah.
just thought, how can I
It's
kind of
like an
keep
invisible line, isn't it? And you're like, I know if
yes,
you start to work beyond that, then
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
at some
And
point you're going to go, bye.
that's it. And I just wanted that kind of almost like that invisible radius to be like, you can do all your sniffing, you can do all your working, you can do all your hedge finding, everything like that, but just in this 10 to
Yeah,
15 meter radius. That's all we need.
Yeah.
And actually she would be quite happy to sprint the length of an entire field and then trot her way back, and
Yeah.
think it was, again, 10 out of 10 review. I'd 100% recommend to all friends. Whereas actually it was kind of
Yeah.
encouraging that things can happen that are fun nearby. You don't have to run to the other side of the field to smell something. There are lots of smells
Yeah.
in and around here that we can work around as well. So yeah, that was the stay close was definitely a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much more relaxing now.
But
So,
yes, yeah,
just
now.
if you had to kind of, I don't know, sum up your experience or say, like, what did you get from it that you're most happy about, or why would you recommend it? Any kind of like last thoughts on either working with me or whether it's a program or anything.
Yeah. I think, oh God, I probably have a list, but I would say, I would say probably like the top few things would be the like the working with
Yeah.
her, but then that kind of domino effects into like having that bond, because I thought we had a really great bond beforehand in the
Yeah.
house. And then when we went out into the park, she was like, okay, I'm off, have fun, bye. And then kind
See
of,
you later.
whereas that, I think definitely the working together, and is almost her seeing that the fun stuff can happen in and around the walks, that I can do the directions, and she's like, yes, let's go
Yeah.
this way. Oh, Hannah said go this way. Yeah, perfect. She must have something good up her sleeve, and kind of that.
Yeah.
The check-ins have increased as well. So like even just this
Yes.
morning, we went on a new route this morning, and she got to kind of almost like a fork in the road, and she kind of had a little sniff there, almost waiting, and then kind of looked at me as being like, right, which way are we going? So
Oh, I love
it's
that.
almost like that it's a joint walk now, which I think
Yeah.
has been the
Yeah.
best learning curve. And I think the best part of working with you was the, of course, the face-to-face sessions, but it was those
Yeah.
continuous check-ins. It was the, I knew I could send a video with a probably very long running commentary over the side of it and being like, I don't know what to do in this situation, and then having those check-ins to then actually, okay, let's try this for 2 or 3 days, and then I'll send you an update video, and oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's perfect. Now how can you level up even further? Brilliant. So then actually by the time it came to that kind of next face-to-face session, well, actually there was
You were
lots of
so
things to
much
kind of
further
catch
on,
up
weren't
on,
you?
and yeah, and we were kind of ready for bigger chunks of next steps. And then I think another thing as well is just seeing how much Tilly really enjoys it. I kind of like touched upon the scent work there, where she's kind of like, oh, there it is, there it is, there
Yeah.
it is. The second I say, like our little cue for her coming to my left hand side is Spot. She knows
Yeah.
the dummy's coming out. She knows, right,
Yeah.
I'm getting ready now, and her whole body is, you can see the light up in her eyes. Like it's
Yeah.
the difference between the two, and I can see now why. She is a movement dog, she's a speedy dog, she's
Yeah.
a hunting dog, she's not a sniffer dog. So you can see the
No.
difference, and I think it was finding the thing for her that really worked. But also you can take so many of those things and put it into something else. So like I can still do all of that with some of the tennis balls or another toy, or as well as a
Yeah.
dummy. We can, there's so many skills that you can kind of transfer between the different items that you're using. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
but I
And
could
it is the
carry on the
skills for it
list.
as well, isn't it? Like I remember things like your sit whistle when we started out,
Mm.
um, not like you not realizing like how far you can go with that, and like you
Yeah.
having now come that far. But like when you start out with like, can you just sit there while I throw a dummy and not run in on it, kind of thing. That's where you've come from,
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
can you just not run into a dummy to actually, if you see some birds, instead of disappearing over the horizon after them, can you just sit there for me?
Just yeah.
um yeah, which, yeah, definitely it is. And I do remember with Tilly, like when we first did her first session and we looked at dummies, and that
Mm-hmm.
was immediate for her, wasn't it? It was
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh yes.
That's, and you could just see it was just built into her. She is like the, just
Yeah.
ticks all the boxes for it. And I think what my probably one of my favorite parts is that when I now like pop them into like a bush or something, you can see there's no holding back, because obviously it's one of her favorite places to be anyway, but I can structure it,
Yeah.
and then you can kind of, yeah, I think it's just you're part of it now. And I'm having moments on the walks where like we'll do a few little like working parts of it, and we'll do a few retrieves, and then for the next kind of like few minutes we're then doing like some sniffing around, and actually I find myself going, oh, okay, I'm just gonna walk. I don't have to be on edge. I could just
constantly like, what else can I do for you, kind of thing. Yeah. No, I definitely remember that being one of your biggest sort of fears at the beginning. It was like, am I going to have to just invest crazy amounts of, you know, time and energy in every walk so that she doesn't leave me? But yeah, no, she's definitely found her joy, hasn't she? Bless her.
Definitely. And of course, a fantastic. No, sorry, one more. I was going to say a fantastic positive cycle for her. So now she's kind of off the lead and she's getting her kind of like her breed needs met. I found that with her shadow and light chasing, it's had that kind of positive impact. So what I used to find was when she was kind of on a walk on a long line, she would have as much of a run around as she could on like a 10-meter long line. She wasn't having her Gundog. She was kind of like, it's all right. And then actually now what I find is I could go on just a half hour, 40-minute walk in the morning. People are like, oh my God, you must have to walk her for hours to tire her out. No, half hour, 40 minutes, and the girl's asleep till midday. Like there's no peep out of her. But actually having that, she's had all her needs met. She's had that chase. She's had that run. She's had that sniffing. She's had the walk. All great. Come back home, have her food. And actually, I find that the positive impact then for her shadow and light chasing, actually, that being part of that positive cycle as well. So I think it just kind of all feeds into she's getting all the right things that she needs and that she needs to
agree,
like burn off.
Do you remember again with that first session we did speak about the shadows and lights, didn't we? And I remember saying to you, like, I'm sure, because again it's not a cookie cutter thing, so it's not like this for all dogs. Some shadow and lights is going to be something completely different, but having met her, I was like, I'm sure when we can get that working side fulfilled, I'm sure you'll see a difference. And that's exactly, you know, how that's panned out. That has definitely helped. That's been lovely to see as well, because she was struggling when I remember it was like quite a sunny day, wasn't it? I think one of your first sessions, it was nice weather or something, and there was plenty for her to choose from. But and as the sessions went on, I remember then, you know, she might notice something like a bird fly overhead and cast a shadow, but then she'd go, oh, hang on, but we're busy, we're working. So I don't have time for you right now, kind of thing. And we just move on.
What shadow? Like
not time. But oh no, I really appreciate you like taking the time to like come online and have this chat with me, and I will I'll get it saved and recorded and everything, and you can have a little look. But really do appreciate it, because it makes such a difference for other people to hear from someone who's been there and done it. You know, I know that most people who, you know, either speak to me about their problems or are thinking about coming to work with me they tend to think like, but my problem's so big, I'm not sure it can be helped, kind of thing. And actually, I can't remember when, I know we discussed at the time, but like you were only so many through your program, like some like 4 sessions or something, when you were already having like massive wins and massive changes, and you know, and it doesn't actually have to be like this really long journey. And it was only a matter of months, wasn't it? Because I had my op in between from you coming with her on the long line and everything to you then actually having your off lead walks and it actually going really quite well. And you know, and
you can all that progress being made whilst having loads of fun with your dog and kind of building that relationship with them as well. Like you can work on something that you think is a really, really big challenge, and you find yourself actually having lots of fun yourself, the dog's having a great time, and you're making progress in the right direction that you want to make it even better going forward. So it's kind of just a perfect example of how it can work really well.
Glad you mentioned that, actually, because that is another thing, because you know, having worked with me, again, I work very much on like, well, don't bother moaning about that or telling them no, or like, you know, forget the ours, and you know, we just invest massively in all the stuff we do want. And again, quite often people who might maybe just like do one session to see and things like that, it's quite hard to grasp how easily things change when you invest in the right thing, and it's hard for people to resist going, no, don't, stop it, whatever. And it's like this real kind of crutch, isn't it, for people? That it's like, no, I feel like even though normally when people say no, don't, stop it, their dog doesn't actually respond, but it's such a hard thing for people to give up, but when you can do that and just invest in that, yeah, I love that and I love that, that's brilliant. Like the changes are just so easy, and you don't have to like be naggy and frustrated, and you just get to go, yeah, I like that bit and I like that bit, and
then you see more of that thing that you like. If you praise it at
yeah,
the right time, you see more of it, and there's no need to do the ahs and the no's and all of
yeah,
that as well. Yeah, you can, whilst having fun with them,
yeah,
and they're getting all their needs met. And I just think that I saw a really lovely video actually a few weeks ago of someone saying that a happy dog isn't just a dog that's kind of like walked and fed. It's a dog is walked and fed and has their breed needs met. And every
yeah,
breed has their kind of own specific needs. If you've got like a chasing dog, a sniffing dog, a guarding dog,
yeah,
or whatever it might be, but
yeah,
actually giving them that
absolutely.
little snapshot of the day to go, oh, you know that thing that you've bred for, that you've got all those natural instincts for, and you're doing it already without needing the meaning to tell you. Here's
Yeah,
how you can
yeah,
channel it, and here's how you can get those needs met, and here's how you can kind of release all of that. And it's always like
yeah,
oh God, wasn't that a great walk, or a great training session, or a great day? And then you've got like a really lovely content dog.
yeah.
I remember someone else saying that a happy dog isn't a dog that's wagging its tail and running around. A happy dog is a dog, do you know, like when they do like the big sigh in the middle of their sleep, like,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and
we
like the
love
big
that. We always comment when
stretch.
they do that.
That's it, yeah. And I
Yeah.
remember someone saying to me, that's a happy dog, because it just means
Proper
that everything they
contentment.
ever need has been met, and actually they're just all
Yeah,
nice and content. And I thought, ever since kind of like hearing those examples, I'm like, actually, yeah, it is she's enjoys her walks. That's great. She is excited in those, but actually that content feeling after, you're like,
yeah,
oh, like we just met all those, and we ticked all those boxes that she needed ticked,
yeah.
in order to just,
Definitely check,
be
check,
content
check.
and chill. Yeah.
I often say it's a bit like for people, like if you're like a really creative person, for example,
Yeah.
and then like, you're asked to spend your whole life like, don't paint, don't draw, don't do poetry, don't use that creative side of you at all. How that feels
Yeah.
inside is just awful, because I'm a creative person. It's
Yeah.
horrible.
Mhm.
Versus somebody saying, well, here's some paper and here's a pencil and there's some coloring things, knock yourself
Mhm.
out. The
Yeah.
difference in how that is for you, for your emotions, for your energy and everything, like, is
Mhm.
just massive. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what they want to do. And not all working dogs, there are working dogs where they're very different, so it's also
Yeah.
individual dogs, but
Yeah.
ultimately, yeah, looking at your individual dog and going, what does that dog need to just feel like it can go, oh, thank God for that, that's that expressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, thank you so
Definitely.
much for
Oh
taking the
no,
time. I
no,
really appreciate it. And I know
no.
it will help people to realise it is possible, and that, because again, the story I told you about Faith and the sitting to the hair and everything, I tell that to people, and now I tell them about your story, because I'm like, you can, it's not just me,
Yeah.
because people
Yeah.
do just think like, oh yeah, but you're the trainer, and so that's you, but not me. But actually it could be you too.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Your
but
dog could be
no,
a little
well
Teddy
done.
doing it. Yeah.
Done
No,
really
you're
well with
very
her.
welcome. No, no
It's
problem at
lovely.
all. I mean, it's been transformational for us. So always more than happy to talk about it to anyone who will listen.
Yay, thank you so much.
No worries.